of 8. We're still live here on 3FM Sunrise, on 3FM 92.7.
Because of the greedy of another man, worldwide.
We're segueing into a very important conversation, and we kick-started said conversation this morning during the news review. And this has to do with the allegations of alleged sale of prime lands, and in particular, a sale of the late Justice Marfo Sau's residence. Let's take a listen, though, to the genesis of this issue. You might have seen or heard that clip from Kennedy Ohene Japan that went viral, and he had a lot to say about the issue of land grabbing. Take a listen, and we'll talk some more.
Chief Justice, Oni Judicial Service, any asenso, Omu Meyano, Eye Justice Marfo Sau, Owu Yano, Ifia Otimono. Ediana esi e abaidia enipa bi omo fasa dan krani en wo mo enne positions inti on pese omo de fa omo ba omo bedu omo num. I have a tax for the vice president of Mahama. So vice president winio Mahama ne winio me say sa dan no de media chiri am the issues of my investigation because woman person fa dan woman person fa dan sa dan no ni en wo mo e be ji esi onso omo pa omo nya ni ombeka Ghana first.
And that was the voice of Member of Parliament Kennedy Ohene Ejapon making some allegations there that concern the Minister for Works and Housing, Honourable Asenso Boachi. Now, the Ministry of Works and Housing has refuted claims made by Mr. Kennedy Ohene Ejapon, again MP Asin Central, regarding the supposed sale of the late Justice Samuel Marfo Sau's residence. A statement released by the Public Relations Unit of the Ministry said the allegations were baseless and false, emphasizing that there had been no sale of the property in question. According to the ministry, the ongoing developments at the late Justice Marfo Sau's official residence are part of the Government Redevelopment Program, GRP. This program, initiated in 1992, aims to find residential accommodation in Accra for the growing number of public and civil servants. Now, the press statement, which we read to you when it came out, outlined the history of the GRP, detailing its implementation in various neighborhoods within the Greater Accra region. Cabinet approval on May 14, 2018 extended the scheme to include additional areas such as Osu, Ringway, Airport Residential Area, and Labonian. Pay particular attention to these areas. These are key areas. Now, the ministry clarified that the GRP, again, that's the Government Redevelopment Program, is driven by the philosophy of optimizing government's prime land within old neighborhoods to achieve higher and optimum densities. The statement stressed that it aims to ensure efficient utilization of existing infrastructure, contribute to the positive growth of major cities, and increase the total stock of government and private residential properties countrywide. Well, the Judicial Service also issued a press statement dated yesterday, the 16th of January 2024. It reads as follows. Now, the attention of management of the Judicial Service of Ghana has been drawn to public statements relating to bungalow number C43. They list the address there, Roman Ridge, previously occupied by the late Justice Samuel Marfo Sau. On December 28, 2022, the Judicial Service received a letter from the Ministry of Works and Housing expressing the desire to implement a government redevelopment scheme within that enclave, Roman Ridge, Accra. Two properties that had been allocated by the Ministry of Works and Housing to the Judicial Service and which previously had been occupied by the late Justice Samuel Marfo Sau and his Lordship Justice Victor Ofoe, J.A., retired, fell within the redevelopment enclave. The plan under government's redevelopment scheme, as expressed to the Judicial Service, was to increase the housing stock in the enclave within a 2-year period from the date of the handover of the property to the ministry. Upon completion of the project, 4 housing units were to be allocated to the Judicial Service for use by the Superior Court judges. The Judicial Service accepted the offer, recognizing the serious accommodation deficit faced by the judiciary, whilst taking into consideration the security and safety requirements of judges, and also convinced that the project would be beneficial to the Judicial Service. Following a series of meetings between representatives of government, Judicial Service, and the Ministry of Works and Housing regarding the 2 properties mentioned above, an agreement dated the 17th of February 2023 was entered into between the Judicial Service and the Ministry of Works and Housing to proceed with the project. Developments on the said land are therefore covered by an agreement concluded between the Judicial Service and the Ministry of Works and Housing. You might have also heard us play a short clip from Honorable Hassan Pelpo Doctor is also an MP. He sits on a different committee. He sits on the Land and Forestry Committee, and we were mulling over that particular aspect, whether or not the Lands Committee would be the avenue to seek more clarity. Well, joining us on the telephone right about now is Honorable Vincent Opong Asamoah. He's the MP for Doma West constituency, and he's also a ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee. Honorable, good morning to you. Hope you're well.
Good morning. I'm doing so well.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
You're welcome.
Now, we've been attempting to unravel this development as far as this government redevelopment scheme is concerned. And I'm sure you've taken note of what has been unfolding this week.
Yeah, before we went on recess, if you may recall, we had a tour of some parts of the country concerning some of these work that is ongoing with the State Housing Company. And most of these houses were places where they are doing some infilling. So what we were asking was the source of funding for this project. Because if you look at the budget that we have, usually government doesn't make provision for these housing schemes. But before you are aware, you see all these houses springing up all over the place. It may be a major source of money laundering. So every Ghanaian should be very much concerned about this. And I remember we inquired, if you just behind Parliament House, you go there, there's massive development all over the place. And we wanted to know the source of funding of this, because so far as we are concerned, we have not budgeted for it in any of our budgets. So there may be a source of funding. So we have to know the source of funding of these major developments going on all over the place. So I think on resumption, what we are going to do is that we are going to ask Parliament to set up a commission of inquiry into this appropriation of state lands and how the source of funding, who owes what is going on. Because we believe that stolen money can be used in such ventures, so that at least you go to Accra, a whole lot of houses. Meanwhile, a lot of people are not even getting places to put their heads. And we are all saying that we have a housing deficit. Meanwhile, houses are springing up and there are no occupancy. So we need to dig into the bottom of this and ensure that those that have acquired this land, legally they've acquired it, and who are the owners of these houses. Until that, the land belongs to government. It is managed by Lands and Forestry. The properties on these lands are managed by Works and Housing.
Right.
So we have 2 ministries that are important stakeholders in this, and we need to dig to the bottom of it to unravel those behind these developments.
Now, according to the Ministry of Works and Housing, this particular government redevelopment program, well, the Judicial Service calls it the Government Redevelopment Scheme, is one which was initiated in 1992 with the aim of providing residential accommodation in Accra for the growing number of public and civil servants. Can you speak to this particular 1992 program? Are you aware of this program and how it came to be?
You know, I'm not aware. It may be there, and I think this thing has been there for some time now. You may see some redevelopment on certain lands, but my major concern is that where are the source of funding of these properties?
Because would you say that is this because this government redevelopment program has not featured in the current budget or did not feature in the budget?
No, we don't have it in the budget. We don't have any budget line that has sought parliamentary approval for redevelopment. No, there's nothing like that. So, and they are using state housing. So we are very much concerned about the source of funding, just like I intimated earlier. The source of funding is so critical. And you know what they are doing is that government uses the land as a security to secure funding. Funding from where? And who are behind this kind of source of funding? Once we are able to unravel this, then we'll be able to know whether there's some interest parties within certain sectors that are behind all these developments. I think that is what should be very my concern. Or if government have been shortchanged in every deal, if government have a property and is using it as a security to secure funding, so what percentage is government getting from those that funding? Because you know all the lands that we are talking about are prime lands.
That's right.
And very, very expensive lands.
So these are lands that are in the Osu area, Osu Ringway, Airport Residential Area, Laboni. So as you mentioned, very prime indeed.
Exactly. So what kind of percentages government are getting from these lands are so critical to some of us. But redevelopment, I don't think there are big issues with the redevelopment.
Okay.
So far as the state is not being shortchanged.
Well, the Judicial Service also issued a press statement, which I read. They issued this statement yesterday, and they conclude by saying that developments on the said land are therefore covered by an agreement concluded between the Judicial Service and the Ministry of Works and Housing. Should that bring finality to that issue, or should we be probing further? I mean, you did start off by saying that should be the case, but it seems to suggest this last paragraph that is all that is needed for this particular redevelopment scheme to progress.
No, what we should be very much concerned about, just like I mentioned earlier, is government getting a fair deal.
Right.
From all those things. That is what we should be very much concerned, because you will agree with me that you move around some of the places and you look at structures sitting on huge lands. You can see straight away that Nkrumah decided to put up those structures for future development, redevelopment. So if it is being done, but I am thinking about is government getting a fair deal, just like I said earlier, and who are behind the funding scheme, because we cannot sit down for people to loot government money and go behind our private investors and then be putting money in prime areas. We need to unravel. So if you talk about the issue with the Judicial Service, it's as a government institution, we are saying we are getting so much, this number of housing schemes.
That's right.
From a plot of land, and then the rest will go to a private developer who decided to invest in that property. Who is that private developer? Or is it a state that decided to look for the funding to put up those structures so that in case previously they were occupying 2 housing projects, right now they are getting 4 and the state is getting 4, so that in all we put together, government will be getting 8 structures. To me, that is a good decision. If that is so, it's a good decision. But other, you see a private developer sharing 50-50 with that Judicial Council. So you ask yourself, who is that private developer? Where is that source of funding? So we need to unravel all these things. So that is the reason why I am recommending that Parliament should launch a probe, not even in Accra alone. It's all over the country.
Right.
Just as we heard, there's one in Tamale. It's all over the country. Kumasi, it's even worse in Kumasi. In Finland, they are doing it all over the place. So we need to get to the bottom, whoever and those that are behind these developments.
Now, the fifth paragraph of the Judicial Services press statement reads as follows. It says, the Judicial Service accepted the offer, recognizing the serious accommodation deficit faced by the judiciary, whilst taking into consideration the security and safety requirements of judges, and also convinced that the project will be beneficial to the service. Now, that's something that should be of concern, housing the judicial service and ensuring their safety. I'm sure that's something that's on the desk of the Works and Housing Committee. What is being done to address this?
Yeah, I believe that when you talk about judicial service, a service is being rendered to the service, and they are very satisfied with that. And I have no issue whatsoever with it. On the other side, we are also thinking about the other side that is going out, because private investors are coming in. The Committee of Parliament doesn't even know how they were even procured. That is where our concern is. So judicial service is getting those housing schemes. Our concern is who and who are getting the other benefits. How were these people procured? Did they follow the due process of law to procure the private funding source? These are some of the things that should be a concern with Ghanaians, and that is what we have to delve in. And I think it is not only judicial service that have this issue with accommodation. We know it, because it is always right to even get them accommodated close to where their offices are.
That's right. That's why I was asking, what is being done to address this issue outside of this GRP, this government redevelopment problem? Because you said as ranking member, what are the plans that are in motion to address this?
No, the issue is that they should look for a source of funding. You look at Saglame, government have put up these structures over there, and for almost 7 years, they've allowed the structure to get rotten. So if you see some of these things, you are very much concerned about this. Is it people thinking about our money, having invested so much somewhere, the biggest and the largest housing settlement ever by any government in recent history, and that has been left for 7 years. No one is attending to it, and everything is rotting away, and they've stolen everything on that side. So if you hear government that right now they would like to do something here, definitely you become very suspicious about why is it that they are so much interested here, but they are not interested in Saglabe. So you become very much worried. So that is why we need to be alert. We need to set up a committee, investigate, get to the bottom, and I think our terms of reference to be those, the funding source. How were these funding sources? How were they procured? And has government gotten a good deal? If government, we are satisfied with all these things, I don't think there are big issues with it. Because redevelopment, yes, it did not start from this government.
Right.
I must admit that it has intensified under this government. And every plot of land is going. Even places where previously there were no settlement, they want to appropriate everything. And as if the world is coming to the end tomorrow, everything they want to. But we need to be very sure that they have done the right thing. I think that is what Ghanaians should be very much concerned. Who and who? Where are the funding sources? Have they really gone through the right processes of law to ensure that funding has been secured? How were these people procured? All these things. Once we are satisfied with all the arrangements, I don't think there are big issues with it, because we all need houses closer to our offices so that at least we can. Productivity, everything can improve. I think that's what everyone is looking for.
Absolutely. Now, Honorable, you mentioned Saglame. The conversation still continues?
Saglame government wants to just sell it out. And as opposition, responsible opposition, we have always stood against it. Because if you look at what has happened with the National Cathedral, so far what government has sunk into National Cathedral, it makes no nonsense for anybody to even talk about Saglame. The cost of Saglame. Right. Because, let me tell you, Saglame, we don't need that much to get. By the time 2017, if you recall, Honorable Atachia, when he visited the site, if you have the records on that, he gave commendation. The structures, everything was up to notch. And he was so happy. But just 7 years after that, and I'm sure he was punished because of the good things he said about Saglame. And as a result of that, he was moved from that ministry. And 7 years down the lane, you go out there. I think we led some media people to the site. Everything had been looted, including doors, windows, and even the fittings. Everything had been removed. And we even learned one picture that loaded even got stuck there for the whole night to the next morning. Meanwhile, they could not get anyone to arrest. So you sit down, you look at the whole thing. It was a planned thing to just remove those things so that they can sell it to themselves, just to reduce, to clear. That's what they are doing to Saglame. But we will stand against it and ensure that those who led Saglame to this state are also fished out and punished. And we will develop it for the right people to use. Because if you go there, the kind of infrastructure we left behind, even the road infrastructure and materials that were left on site, you can't believe it. And all these things, a government that has been in power for 7 years is not concerned because the whole thing was started by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. So let's reduce it. Let's demonize the man, and then we clear it. And at the end of it, you go behind it. It's your own guys that will procure it, and then they can make some profits from there. But just like I started, National Cathedral alone makes the whole allegation so nonsense. So nonsense. Because Sanko almost 400 million, and we are talking about less than 160 million spent over there, and you think that is the way we have to treat state properties. I don't think that's the way to go.
I mean, interestingly, Honorable, because you mentioned the National Cathedral, some judges' houses were demolished to make way for the National Cathedral, which is something that we touched on this morning, which definitely also raises some more questions on what the priorities are in ensuring that the judicial service have adequate accommodation that is secure and safe for their use and for the use of the country. Thank you so much, Honorable Vincent Opong Asamoah. He's the MP for Doma West, joining us to get give his thoughts on this current story which is unfolding. We're talking about government redevelopment program. Honorable says once Parliament resumes, a probe should be set in motion to get some more clarity on the issues. Honorable, thank you again for your time this morning.
You're welcome, dear.
All right.
While I'm living, thanks I'll be giving.